Let's now start talking about macro splits. So a macro split is basically the ratio or distribution of macronutrients, carbs, proteins, and fats in a diet. Now, the right macro split can help individuals meet their specific health and fitness goals, whether it's weight loss, muscle gain, and performance. And adjusting a macro split is an advanced level of nutrition coaching, but it can help your clients achieve optimal results. I just want to touch on that. Calories will be the primary determining factor. So if someone wants to lose weight, gain weight, etc., calories are your most important metric. So if they want optimal results, then we're certainly going to be looking at macro split. So what we need to always consider is optimal versus practical. For a lot of clients, this isn't really necessary because they don't need optimal, they just need practical. So we can always get more and more granular and detailed with nutrition. We just need to use the client levels, which we talk about in retention, as a way to determine which nutrition tools we're going to use at what time with what client. Giving macro splits to a beginner client who's never tracked their nutrition before, who has never really followed a healthy diet before, isn't going to be the best tool for that job. So with the purpose of macro splits, we can distribute that in a way that sets a goal. So we have a look at fat loss, high protein, moderate to lower carbohydrate can support muscle retention and fat loss. The reason moderate to lower carbohydrate is because fat in a diet we will only remove to a certain point, simply because we need dietary fats for optimal health and hormonal balance. So they can only code down so much. Whereas higher protein is generally included because protein has a higher thermic effect. So it burns more calories per unit of ingestion, and protein is essential for both muscle maintenance, potential muscle gain if someone's training hard enough, and also looking at appetite regulation, which is the most important part of fat loss because people struggle to stick to it. Now, muscle gain, a higher carb intake will provide the energy for hypertrophy training. So we can really kind of have a more static approach to macros with our proteins and fats, and carbohydrates, the one where we're going to get the most amount of movement. And for maintenance, a balanced macro split can keep people pretty happy, give a wide variety of foods in the diet, and make sure we have no glaring nutritional omissions. Okay? So length of the macro split, short-term adjustments, we can adjust it periodically, and we can have long-term consistency. It really depends on what someone wants to do. So how do we do it? We calculate TDEE. We've talked about that 100 times over. I'm not going to refresh it. Okay. We choose a macro split based on this. Now, this is one of many different ways to do it, and we will go over other ways on how to do this within the course, on assigning it based on other certain metrics as well. This is just one way of many to do it for helping you design diet plans for clients, and also when they're tracking, how to adjust the diet plan. So please don't think this is the be all and end all. There are multiple ways that we can do this. Again, appropriate to the client at the right time. So protein, 1.8 to 2.2 per kilos, grams per kilo body weight or higher. Carbohydrates, 30 to 40% of total calories, and fats, 25 to 35%, will generally get most people across the board. So we can see here that with example macro split for fat loss, we've got a higher percentage of fats than we do for muscle gain. And the reason for that is because the overall calories are going to be different as well. So in a muscle gain phase, we're going to have different calories versus that. Now for maintenance, a balanced macro split generally works across pretty well. 30, 40, 30 is a classic one. The zone diet, it works really well for a lot of people to maintain because it means there's no glaring nutritional omissions and they're not overdoing carbs. Now, for performance, a specific macro split can be used to improve that, which is higher carbohydrates, lower fat, lower protein as well. But remember, if someone's on higher total daily calories based on the amount of calories they need for their sporting performance, it's going to be a pretty high protein intake anyway. So you can adjust it based on this, and some people find this to work quite well. Again, I would check it out with clients. I wouldn't worry about checking it out with everyone, okay? Ectomorphs may respond to higher carbohydrates. Endomorphs may need higher fat. So not based on science, but for some people, this is certainly applicable. So just keep it on board and use this as a tool, not as a rule of thumb, okay? Now, possible downsides of macros. Some people will find they get deficiencies if the macro split is too extreme. Some people may find certain macro splits unsustainable. Some people may have decreased energy, and some people may have digestive issues. So this is where working out what macro split works best for your client is still the best tool. So adjust based on progress, be balanced, and educate your clients on what's going on, the importance of each macronutrient and why. A lot of clients will try and cut fat down because fat has the highest caloric density, 9 calories per 1 gram of fat. So they'll try and cut fat down and wonder why they feel like crap. The reason is because they're not producing their steroid and sex hormones. So we need to have adequate fats for that. And then with different macro splits, honestly, training doesn't make a huge difference. But if you're doing cardio-based one, you definitely need higher amounts of carbohydrate to fuel that activity. For resistance training, it's not the biggest deal unless you're pushing really, really hard. So guys, with macro splits, that's one of many tools. We'll share more tools there. That's how you can use percentages, which is really useful for things like MyFitnessPal and Chronometer. We're going to show you how to do individual splits as well.